With about 7 minutes to clock into the next hour. Thank you so much for still being with us here on Morning at NTV. Priscilla Regina Naloga is my name, and into our Kickstarter, where we get to look at taming the worrying political intolerance flare-up that is happening in the country. And some fear that this could take us back down the road of history that many do not want to walk back. They want to walk forward. And also, we just want to get an insight into Ebola, especially in Kasanda, what's happening there, the resolutions that were brought on table and to be implemented to the education ministry so that they can help our dear school-going children to be able to complete the term safely. Now, I am joined by ladies, Mrs. Bonnie Kiconco, who is a political analyst, and also from the NRM. Good morning to you, and you're most welcome.
Good morning, Regina.
Okay. And also we do have woman MP Kasanda joining us yet again here, and that's Flavia kalulu. It's so much to have you in our presence this morning amidst what's happening in Kasanda.
Thank you very much, Priscilla. Good morning, viewers, and good morning, everyone. It is extremely sad what's happening in Kadunda District and the other areas around Mubende too, which is our neighboring district, and a few other areas that have also been highlighted to have cases of Ebola. Just this morning, as I was getting onto this show, I got a phone call that 3 of our people had just died. 3 of the people that belong to the contacts of the people that we've already lost and that have already been taken in, some that have been taken in for Ebola symptoms. So Kasanda, as we speak right now, is in a state of fear. It's in a state of panic. People are genuinely worried. And we are also concerned as leaders on what the situation is like and what we can do to improve it. We have limited sensitization we have tried as leaders, but Kasanda is wide, and very few people can actually be able to watch television. A few possess radios, so majority of them need contacts. You need to go into their areas to be able to disseminate information to them so that they can know exactly what's happening. A number of areas are hidden away from civilization, if I may put it that way. So you find that the information flow is still lacking. We still have a huge challenge there. We had a meeting with the Ministry of Health officials, I think now 2 weeks back, as the leaders of Kasanda District, top leadership. We had the RDC there in that meeting of Kasanda. We had all the 4 members of parliament there in that meeting. We had the meeting, we had the cow there, the district speaker. We had the chairperson LC5 represented by the vice. We also had the permanent secretary, the other side, the Minister of Health, and a number of other ministry officials. And we agreed on a number of things. Some of the things, one that we all genuinely agreed to conduct massively was the sensitization, because people still believe it is a witchcraft affair. People still believe no, they are lying, there is no Ebola. Contacts were hiding a lot and are still hiding because of the fear. They don't know how they are going to be treated.
But they're hiding. I know that much as, you know, the 2 districts are under total lockdown. Yeah. But there's loopholes. There's,
of course.
Transport loopholes. So of course. People are running away from the districts. Of course. And coming to other communities.
The stigmatization too causes them to hide, because now they don't know how to treat people with Ebola. So one, I really want to condole with the families of the people that have lost their loved ones due to Ebola within this period, this morning, and even this entire period that we've been under lockdown, even before lockdown. We pray for their souls to rest in peace, and we pray that their families will get strengthened. We also call upon other people to come up, the contacts, the alerts. You know, let us be able to tell the ministry, to tell the health officials what is happening. We actually thank all the health officials within the district that are doing everything within their mandate and their power to ensure that they save lives. But amidst all this, we've also had challenges. We had the huge challenge of the police enforcing, you know, the brutality that was there, and we still see, although people have now kind of adjusted and they've kind of cooled down a bit, but the police was also very intolerant when it came to ensuring that they enforce the SOPs and they enforce the directives of their boss, General Museveni. We also have schools that have been affected so much. We have cases, the unique cases that we have, and I think that is what is causing some of this rapid spread right now as we speak in the areas of Luenzo, Bulagano, Chikandwa, that area. It's largely Kalwana sub-county that is getting affected. I think the religious issue and the cultural issue, those are very unique cases that haven't been handled by the Ministry of Health, because we have a scenario of Chikandwa is largely a town of Muslims, and they're the ones dying. And so they have their religious way of burying. But that hasn't been addressed by the health officials. They keep saying in terms of Ebola, and yet we just, you know, dump the body there and that's all. But these guys keep saying, but we cannot just have our people buried in such a way. So we had a scenario where someone was unburied. And then the Muslim guys tried to clean, you know, to bury in there. So that also spread a lot of
leading to contact
of course,
the disease.
Then you also have the case of the culture. That is, we had a lady that was pregnant that died. That was a huge case for us. She died and the team wanted to bury her with her baby inside. And so the family kept on saying, in our culture, we cannot bury someone with another human being. So that is unacceptable. And so there was a lot of, how will she be buried? Can she be buried? No, she needs to be operated to remove the baby. So I think some of those challenges, those unique circumstances come in, and we need to see how to address some of those circumstances in such situations. Otherwise, we have got the food as leaders. We really called upon the government to be able, because if you lock people down, then you need to give them something.
To supply them,
you know, to supply them with something.
Yeah.
They've given us some food, just 30 tons of food. That is 10 tons of beans and 20 tons of posho. Definitely, this is very small for our population.
All right, thank you, Flavia. Turning to Madam Kiconco here. Of course, what we're hearing, the strife being one, minimal information, but also you have to move this information to the different people, and the communities get rawer and rawer by the different parts that are in districts of Kasanda and Mubende. So information dissemination versus the fear of the people themselves who must take this information to this public. What should be the alternative?
Yes, good morning once again, dear viewers. Bonnie Kiconco, Kashira is my name, as you've said. It is so unfortunate that Uganda, even before year elapses, we are in this kind of circus. People are still traumatized by COVID and COVID effects and lockdown. So I really condole with the people who have lost their loved ones. I feel sorry for everyone, but most particularly for districts that are under lockdown. True, there is a lot of information gap, but I wouldn't want to blame this to anyone, because, like my colleague has said, part of it is culture, part of it is the way we behave in our society, part of it is sometimes laxity, I wouldn't say of the leaders, but of us people themselves. So the issue of information gap, in my view, should be that we increase and intensify radio programs about such kind of breakouts. We intensify TV programs. Of course, you can't say gatherings, so we must pass through media strategies that can bring out this information. And most importantly, talk more about culture and science. I think for me the most important, and even religion, because yesterday I was watching the TV, like she put it, I saw how they were narrating the Muslim group which unburied the person, and they said they had to wash, and they said out of that 20 people were affected. So the ministry has done its best. I wouldn't want to say that the ministry is relaxed. We really appreciate the Ministry of Health, but at the same time we need to do more. We need to do more, we need to do better, we need to increase, we need to genuinely come out as a government, as a ministry, and ensure that each and every person appreciates. I think for me, the bigger issue is that sometimes the population does not appreciate what the Ministry of Health puts out. Sometimes they look at it in a different way. It is so unfortunate that when it had come, and people would think, the ministry is just bringing out things again because supplementary budget, which is so unfortunate. So what we need more is to find a way, in the message that we are disseminating, to find a way of increasing the risk factor and perception about such kind of diseases. People have not yet appreciated. We need to increase information, messages, and how people can appreciate risk factors in this area.
Speaking of information dissemination, Honorable Flavia, in the education sector is the one that is at a very challenging time, because children have just returned back to quote-unquote supposed full year of education. We're having candidates taking on the examinations in this period, and you do have boarding schools, you do have mixed schools, you have day schools, and they must be protected. So in your district, in your representation area, how are you helping the education system there to protect themselves?
So thank you very much for that question. We had a challenge at the onset of the lockdown with the education sector. First of all, we have schools that are very far away from the students. So we had a number of students that couldn't travel all the way from their home areas to the schools because borders were not allowed to operate. Public means we are not allowed to operate, no taxis, nothing. And most of our students and the peoples that we have in Kasanda basically rely on borders for transportation. So we had a huge gap. First of all, we had the numbers dropping. So very few students were able to go to school because of the fear, but also because of the long distances. A person from Bira, Makokoto sub-county, couldn't walk to go to Bukuya, which is very far away from them. We had teachers too that were not able to reach schools. So we had also the number of teachers dropping suddenly after the lockdown. And so we raised this concern to the Ministry of Health officials and to the government, and they were able to provide two vans to facilitate the transportation of the teachers around the district. Of course, they've also provided temperature guns for each school, 3 temperature guns, I am aware, for each school, so that they keep checking, monitoring the temperature of all the teachers and the people and the students that are coming in. I know that they are faced with a challenge. Of course, the sanitizer and the washing materials are available for them to constantly wash their hands. But we face the challenge of students that are going to do exams currently, and they are living in fear. As I speak this morning, and some parents were calling me and saying, we cannot allow our students to continue going to schools because of the increased numbers of contact people. By the way, our numbers are rising. We are now at about 43 people, contacts that have been confirmed with Ebola cases within Kasanda, and the last time I checked, we had 9 people that had died out of Ebola, plus the 3 that have been added this morning. So now we are rising to a total of about 11 people that have died within Kadunda District, confirmed cases of Ebola. So also now we have a conflict. Parents are saying we don't want to give our students to the schools because a few students in Kasanda can afford boarding section. Majority are day scholars, but now they have to keep traveling and traveling. So that's where the challenge is. I think we have to devise ways. Either the school to support the school, the government, Ministry of Health to support schools by putting up a boarding section, and you know, like,
to just help them complete the term.
And also the supply of the schools, because they don't have food. They can't afford the food. They can't afford, you know, feeding them and out. So I think that's where the challenge and the emphasis needs to be put with the education sector.
Thank you so much, Flavia, speaking for Kasanda and neighboring districts that are heavily grappling with the outbreak of the Ebola virus. Now, away from that, we get to look at our main conversation this morning, political intolerance, the flaring up of it, and how it's worrying so many Ugandans. They're fearing the long walk backwards. A section of opposition and, of course, the ruling National Resistance Movement supporters last week clashed at Jakana's barrio at Kadunda Village in Nakaseke District, leaving several people that were injured out of that clash. Now, during that scuffle, controversial as it was, outspoken NRM activist Ivan Kamuntu was beaten by a mob that accused him of attempting to block National Unity Platform officials from addressing mourners during the barrio, and of course using provocative language. Now, of course, disturbing as this is, it has sprung up political intolerance and hate speech and anger, and it's compelling concerns for where this country is actually headed. with us, ladies, I want to come to the, the understanding of where this all comes from and where it's taking us, and if it's taking us to a place that we want to go. And if we don't want to go there, how do we then take the right turn? And of course, I'm going to start with Kiconco. Of course, this is alarming. There's a lot of hate speech. Of course, it started off with, let's pick it up from the most recent elections that transpired in this country. And then all throughout the post-election season, we've had hate speech, we've had conflict of parties, we've had conflict of opposition, and for example, say security forces, the police, different political activists that are pro-government, and it's been growing and growing and growing. Now, coming to this back most recent of the Jakana barrier, where we had these not really good things that should be happening when someone is, having their final send-off. What does this mean? What is fueling this political intolerance?
Yes, thank you, Regina. The issue of political intolerance, I want actually to expound it, to get it out of political intolerance and say general intolerance of each other in our society. For me, I look at it in different aspects. I look at it as our lack of patriotism, real patriotism, not the patriotism they teach in class, but for me, we are seated here, three of us, to really first appreciate that the first thing, I'm glad we are all ladies, and we should be glad that we are ladies, but most importantly that we are Ugandans. Irrespective of our region, irrespective of our political affiliation, irrespective of our color and sex, we are Ugandans. That is one thing that we are seriously lacking, and the government needs to address. That's why you look at me, and maybe she looks at me, I'm from NRM, she's Noop, and then you think I should be killed. Forgetting I am a lady like you, forgetting I am a Ugandan, forgetting I am a mother, forgetting I have people to look after. So for me, the first thing I would want us to look at it is how do we increase our levels of love for our country, of love for each other. That is patriotism. That is one thing. Then the other issue, the way I will handle it, as I give examples, is increasing unemployment and some levels of poverty. Yes, I see you flying in the face, but this really causes what you would call political intolerance. Most of these people who are always in the fracas and fighting, you'll find that they are youth who are in most cases unemployed, and they are looking for survival. And it's us politicians who use them in our way. So in my view, I would want to appeal to the government and everybody that we all look into how do we employ most of our youth? How do we remove them from this redundancy? How do we ensure that each and everyone can get some sustainable income? So that if Bonnie calls you and say, come and follow me, I give you 30,000 to go and hit a stone at so-and-so's car, you know that you have better job, you have better time, you have better area where you can put your time rather than running after a politician. And for me, I would not put it on any political party. Personally, I come from Barara. I contested in Barara. Barara, we are largely NRM. I am the flag bearer of NRM Barara City as a woman MP. And even this happens even within the camps of NRM. Even within the camps of other parties happen. So I don't want us to look at it from the start. I don't want us to look at it as NUP versus NRM, NRM versus NUP. Let's address it as Ugandans. Let's look at it and know that we Ugandans, we need to love each other, we need to know each other, and we need to find things that are gainfully engaging the youth. The youth, most of our youth are very redundant, and they can easily be misused. They can easily be misled. Right. And wherever you look at this case, if you've made a really analysis, you'll find that people who are involved in this fracas are the young people, the energetic, but who are not gainfully employed.
Okay, thank you so much, Kiconco. She's alluding to patriotism, unemployment, and of course the youth that are engaging in this manner of activities. But she's calling us to address this issue as Ugandans. Now, Flavia, a certain group of Ugandans that have a belief, which belief has then constituted the National Unity Platform, are feeling like they continue to drink from the cup of suffering on this conversation. Many are citing impunity among most government officials and historians historical unjust laws fluctuating in terms of implementation and in fair terms. And this is piling up a lot of anger. Where exactly, as a country, are we failing?
Thank you very much for the question. As a country, we have failed at protecting our young people. We have failed at protecting our citizens. We have failed at providing a conducive political environment for operation. We have also failed at transforming and transitioning from one regime to another. So now the frustrations of Ugandans are many. We have the age dividend. We have that demography, the young being tired of the old. We have the impunity question that has sparked so many, that has sparked fury across. We see them every day. We interact with them. We meet with them. We live with these people. People that will not even obey authority right from the traffic, the roads that we have. People who think they are untouchable in this country, and so they are free to commit whatever atrocities they want and they'll go scot-free because we have seen them walking, you know, without any punishment, without any consequences happening to them. Yet we have dead bodies they are living on their way. So we are a frustrated nation, and I would say that that is a cause of spark and anger across in so many areas. Right from the top, as the Baganda, we say that the fish rot starting from the head, then the entire fish will get spoiled. But right from the head, we have a very political, intolerant president at the top. General Museveni is very intolerant of all the opposition. That's why he has labeled opposition activists, opposition members of parliament, opposition leaders as wolves, enemies of the state. He calls us terrorists. He calls us bandits. He has called us all sorts of names. He himself is extremely very intolerant of the opposition. In fact, too intolerant that even in his particular book, even in Matembe's book, Matembe referred to a conversation they had earlier on when they were introducing the multi-party democracy in Uganda, where General Museveni was saying he cannot be for multi-party dispensation because he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't believe in so many political parties being within the same country. And he said that if Uganda was to ever have a multi-party dispensation, he would go back to his farm in Rajtura and just watch Uganda crumble. No wonder, probably that's why the efforts of multi-party dispensation have become futile. No wonder the opposition is so stifled and suffocated that you cannot even operationalize. No wonder we are so demonized and harassed by his government that he just sees us as people that just need to be crumbled, in his own words, or eaten piece by piece, as he said. And he vowed to have no political opposition by the year 2021, and we see him doing this successfully. Now he has met a resistance from the National Unity Platform that does not speak his language, but that does not also fear him. Because when you have Ugandans, especially Ugandan youth, that are extremely suffocated by the different plight that they are suffering from, you have Ugandan youth that are largely unemployed, you have Ugandans that are dying in a very dying health sector, that they cannot afford even the basics of Panadol, of treating malaria, basics. You have women, 16 every day, dying while giving birth in a hospital, and majority of Ugandan women are in their reproductive age. You have people that have lost hope in the education sector because it doesn't churn out people who can create jobs for themselves. And you have people who are dying when they look for jobs abroad. The labor externalization policies are extremely have gone to the dogs in this country. It's one man for us all. It's everyone for themselves. So what would you expect?
Let me ask Kiconco, what should we expect in a dying system, as they're calling it, where you do have the rights and freedoms, for example, the multi-party dispensation, that should be a right and a freedom for those that feel like they feel like what you are advocating for as government is not exactly befitting of where they are right now, be it political times, socio-economic, whatsoever. And yet the backbone of it is that what is termed as opposition is ideally an alternative government, an alternative policy, an alternative ideology, and that's the basic of it.
In the first place, there is no, I want us to first correct, there is nothing like a dying regime, a dying situation, a dying country. No, we are alive. The country is alive, the regime is alive, the systems are alive. When a few individuals make mistakes, it's not fair to say that there's a dying regime. A dying regime cannot lead people for 30 plus years. It would have been buried long ago. The fact that it is still surviving, that means there are some things it is offering to the nation. That means there is something good that is being done to the people. It's me who started acknowledging that, yes, there are some things which are lacking, which are causing this whole situation. But it's not that there is a dying regime, it's not that there is a dying system. The systems are really working. Only that we need to continue cleaning up. That one I will emphasize. We need to continue cleaning up. We are not yet there.
Which are some of those systems that you believe need urgent cleaning up as of yesterday?
For example, like we are talking about the issue of intolerance, political intolerance, people's intolerance against each other. For me, one of the institutions that need to be worked upon to help us reduce this intolerance is the police, for example. Because if the police was doing its best, if you have done a crime, they handle you as an individual who has done a crime, irrespective of your party, irrespective of anything, that's okay. Then secondly, and I'm not blaming the entire police institution, those individuals that sometimes do take bribe, that sometimes are inclined on a certain political person who gives them wrong orders. You know, sometimes police is also used by different politicians. And by the way, it's not only that it's NRM. No, that's not true. Even any other one can fuel, and then when they are compromised, they cause this situation. So for me, it's not a dying system. What we need to do, as I said, we need to reduce that impunity, and most importantly, the person or the group or the institution that will help us is police or security agencies to look at it, to be impartial, to look at us, as I started, as Ugandans first and foremost. So the situation, the regime is working, the systems are there, but we need to continue identifying those individuals that are frustrating this good system that is in place. We need to also identify those youth that are rowdy and put them for rehabilitation. True,
but we don't have rehabilitation centers that are government-centered, and the ones that are there are also in despair.
By the way, some of these prisons, professional prisons, by the prisons is one of the areas that is still professional, and I may say, yes, there are no clear rehabilitation centers, but sometimes even a prison is a rehabilitation center, and some people, or most people, have been rehabilitated. So when I talk of rehabilitation, true, as a government needs to gazette some actual rehabilitation centers, and that's why I've said we need to keep improving, and these are some of the things that we should raise here on air and request the government that we need them. Now that we are in this situation where I can hit your stone without a reason, it is a call that as government we should sit and discuss and see how do we improve our rehabilitation, in addition to prisons.
Let me ask you, Kiconco, how best can we live parallel as government and opposition?
The best way is to follow the law, both of us, because we need each other. The government, like you said, true, opposition is alternative government, true. In our language, they say it is actually a group that advises government. If you put it in my language, they say a group that advises government. So we need opposition, we need multi-party. Multi-party is working all over the country, and it's actually very, very healthy that we need what. But the way we can live parallel to each other is by following the law. We need to follow the law. We need to know that whoever is doing something is doing it within the law. Don't feel so big for you because, you know, if you do something, and sometimes we use these things as cover because, you know, you are in opposition. Even when you've done wrong, you want people to see you that you've been persecuted because you are in opposition. That's very wrong. Similar, even as my party NRM. Let's not do wrong because I know I'm in NRM. But as I've said, for me from the beginning, this issue of political intolerance does not have a party color. And I will still emphasize that we need to address it as a Ugandan issue. We need to approach it as a patriotic issue. We need to increase actions, not necessarily classroom lessons, actions that bring more insights about patriotism.
Okay, all right. Flavia, we do have Kiconco here, of course, representing the NRM, saying that it all comes down to the law, abiding by the law. From your assessment, now this is a two-sided question. As alternative government, where do you feel that the current government is not following the law in regards to the conversation, escalating the political intolerance? And then what are the alternatives that are being offered from opposition in order to curb this vice before this country goes haywire?
Thank you very much. Now, the question of the law, we all know who the worst lawbreakers are. That's the regime. Those are all the leaders that are in the NRM regime and the NRM government. Because if it's about following the law, I'll just give an example. We just came out of a very heated election, extremely violent, where we had a roadmap. Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, the president of this country, as voted by the people of Uganda, had a very clear roadmap. You come from this place, you go to this place, you go to another place. At this time you're here, and at the other time you're this side. But we saw him failing to campaign peacefully. The very people that were breaking the laws were the people that were enforcing the laws. He couldn't move from one area to another. His people were getting arrested. Our people of NUP, we lost a number of them in the elections. So where is the law in that? Where up to now we are still asking for the perpetrators of all that electoral, malpractice and the violence that we witnessed, the grueling murders that we witnessed in that election. None has been brought to book. Who do we have in this rotting in the cells? NUP supporters. Those who are branding themselves with t-shirts of Kyagulanyi during a campaign. Those who are wearing red berets because, as they tell us, they are wearing army berets. Those who are holding posters, those who are pinning up posters for Kyagulanyi Robert are the ones rotting down in the cells. Where is the law in that? Where are the other people? If we have these ones rotting there, can we have another cell of all the perpetrators? All the people that are being brought to court, where are they? We don't see any. We are talking about laws. Who are the very first breakers of the law? We remove the constitution. Constitutionalism is one of the things that you have to help us uphold the laws. Right now, as we speak, we have no term limits, we have no age limits, and we have no presidential cap at all in the constitution of Uganda. Where is the hope? Where should Ugandans draw their hope from and their strength? When you're taking away every little thing that is supposed to give them hope for a better Uganda, for a new Uganda, for a transition. And we are talking about laws within Parliament itself. That's why we have people that are forcing a commissioner to leave their station simply because he has refused to abide by, some of the bribery that is within Parliament. So how can we talk about laws? How can we talk about a country that is peaceful? We are talking about laws. RDCs are always taking people's land, are always involved in breaking the laws. We see them in elections. It's as if they're military. So I think for me, as Ugandan, I'm speaking on behalf of Ugandans, with NUP, that is right now very intolerant, and rightly so, because if you have lost a child, you have lost children, you have lost relatives, and they are telling you, we go to the peace talks, we go to peace talks, but we don't see anything for us emerging out of these peace talks. What would you do? It's very unfortunate that some of these things blow up at unfortunate places. But you have, for example, the Jakana's, burial, funeral. It is so sad that we lost such a young man, by the way, in very weird and circumstances that are not even known, but which we know that are politically motivated. But when you see such a person, and then you have people whose rights have been infringed for a very long time trying to speak out that, we are losing this person, but you also have so many other people that have just disappeared totally off the face of Uganda. We don't know where they are not in cells, so they are not. So what do you do?
What is the alternative as opposition?
It is one alternative that we have in this country. Just remove General Museveni and we get a breather in leadership.
Until that happens, which is going to happen in 2020.
Until that happens, restore term limits in the constitution. We need to have safeguards that give people hope. What do we have to give people hope? Just change all the ministers. Remove the ministers. Remove some of those regime apologists. The institutions are broken down. Can we get fresh leadership in there? And all these things I'm talking about, Priscilla, cannot happen with a president that is seated there and that is facilitating these wrong elements. It can't happen.
Okay.
So that is the basic solution that we have at the moment.
All
so
right,
that Ugandans can restore our hope for them.
Yes.
And we can also see a new Uganda for Ugandans.
The alternative is that right now, if we are going to have an all-Ugandan inclusion in this conversation to bring to an end political intolerance, how about we have a shift and a shake-up within top leadership, so as to have other people coming in, and perhaps that will lead to the change of systems. As you yourself, Kiconco, said, the systems are there, and again, the systems independent of individuals could be good, but the positions in the powers that run these institutions are actually doing us injustice as a country. And this then takes us back to a reflection. I want us to reflect on the past. As Uganda, we have not really had by far a peaceful handover of power. Right after independence, it's been someone is just not happy with another, and they have to go take on very ugly means to take power from that president and get it for themselves. And then in their tenure, things go upside down, and it seems to be a cycle that we are in over and over again. You pride in over 35 years, but this is the reason you came into power in the first place, the intolerance, that were the injustices to the Ugandans. But you seem to be seeing them, and you seem to be not moved by these injustices to, as you say, patriotic Ugandans. How do we stop the recurrency of history?
Thank you very much. In the first place, again, I would like to correct the misinformation that we don't have a constitution. Uganda is ruled under a constitution, and we all know it. This constitution, it is sometimes adjusted because it is not cast in stone. It's a paper that you can sit and discuss. There are procedures, ways, constitution again, constitution ways and means of how you change articles and whatever you call them within the constitution. So first and foremost, I would like to reiterate that Ugandans listening to us, we are under a constitutional rule. Whatever that is, the institutions that are running, the president that is in power, His Excellency Museveni Kaguta Tuhaburwa, is there constitutionally. He did not break any constitutional rule to come to power. As I've said, you may address some of the issues that still have gaps. You may close some of those gaps, but at least let's know, and let's not divert Ugandans, that we are in a ruthless society. We are under a constitutional rule which has a term limit of 5 years, whereby the president that is in power is elected ever after 5 years. For me, when you focus on an individual, you lose the track. Don't focus on individual as Museveni. Museveni is there as the president who was elected through a constitutional procedure and rules that are guiding Uganda. And any other person can and will be elected in that process. So for me, I think let's first put that clear, and that's what is there, and that is the truth. It's not that we are fabricating anything. Even this, when you say that RDCs are grabbing land, yes, some of them, like in any other party, can use. I'm not here to defend a person who has done something wrong because he belongs to my party or she belongs to my party. If that individual RDC has done wrong, I think you've had some RDCs being reprimanded. You've had some policemen being reprimanded. Similarly, you've even had areas where opposition has won re-election, where opposition has put people in court and they have actually been removed from their powers. So meaning that yes, the system is there, the system is working, the constitution is in place, and possibly, Flavia, we could even blame you as a member of parliament, not as an individual but as parliament, that why we have a parliament and the constitution is in the hands of the parliament. Whatever changes in that constitution is changed through our parliament. So if the members of parliament are not giving us the right thing within the constitution, let's not blame the president. Because any other person, even me, I will work within the constitution and get what I want. So we should actually turn onto you as members of parliament and say, is this the best you're offering to Ugandans? So for me, that's why I want to look at it. And when we look at it that way, we will know that it is not an issue of an individual. It is not a Musevenism issue. It is not a who issue. It is an issue that we are still under the constitution. And we fear, if we feel aggrieved that some of the articles within the constitution are not right, Again, as parliament, as our parliament, they have all the rights to present those issues, and they are adjusted. Our constitution, yes, it's not good to adjust the constitution all the time, but they have the mandate to adjust the constitution and rectify those they feel are not okay for the general good of the Ugandans.
Thank you so much, Kiconco. We're going to be taking a short break, but I know you do have your 2 cents on this conversation. The political intolerance that is playing up in the country, what's the way forward, and how can we arrest it earlier than later? #morning@NTV. Please share your thoughts across our social media platforms, and we'll be able to interact them later after this break. Well, it was chaos that led the NRM to say, no, we've had enough. They went to the bush. They made the tough decisions to hold those guns and reclaim the freedom of Ugandans, and hence the peace that they speak of for the last 35 years plus of them being in power. However, over time, some people have not been okay with what government has done, and those that have subscribed to different oppositions are basically saying there's an alternative to how we can move this country forward. We pick up this conversation from where Kiconco left it off. We were reflecting back on history and how we can redeem ourselves from history not repeating itself again. Must we go back to the bush? Must we go back into a zone? As we speak right now across Africa, Mali, Burkina Faso as presently are under military rule simply because of this political intolerance that has been growing in the countries, and decided no, let the army be in charge for now until the stability and sanity returned to the people, right from leadership down to the citizens. Then it can be returned to civilian rule. This is where I turn to you, Flavia, as the alternative to government. You are trying all peaceful means of putting your message out there. You're trying all peaceful means to be the voice for the other Ugandans that are disgruntled and dissatisfied with what you say the regime is doing, the injustices of the regime, political, social, infrastructure, economic, so on and so forth. At one point, do you see that if there's no change to heeding to your voice and maybe giving consideration of what you're saying, is there an alternative of you going to the bush yourselves?
Priscilla, thank you for that question, and it's very funny that you asked me whether going to the bush is an alternative for us, and I will not sit here and tell Ugandans that that is an alternative for us. But if the worst came to the worst, I don't know, when you in Uganda they say wonyigiriza nyindo ojireeta omusaayi. Literally translated as if you squeeze very tightly the nose, it eventually bleeds. Now we are in a situation which is extremely tight for Ugandans, and not just the opposition Ugandans, because I'll just give you an example of so many people who call us even from within the regime, from the NRM, that are calling us to voice out their concerns. The spaces of engagement have been stifled, totally shrunk, that you cannot organize in this system, the current system we have. Because if we had a multi-party dispensation that was tolerant of other political parties, we would probably reach our message far and wide. But I can tell you, and I can cite so many examples of how we've been frustrated to reach people in their areas, grassroots, just within a campaign period and even out of the campaign period. Like the roadblocks that you hit constantly are many. Now, you don't have that as an alternative. You know you will not organize anything politically and it will survive here. Then we also have a divide and rule that General Museveni uses. He will also have the money that keeps splashing, because he has impoverished people so much that everyone is living on a handout right now. So you have no alternative whatsoever of getting to where you are, and yet Ugandans have hope. He himself was the person that came out to confess that a mere ballot paper, cannot get him out of power. Now, when you have a leader that does not respect the law, that doesn't respect the multi-party dispensation, that doesn't respect and utilizes the military to his advantage, it has become a personal whim of his. How do you want Ugandans to organize? Now, in courts, we say that when the justice system is not granting you the justice that you so deserve, They are simply channels, they are simply vessels. People will look for alternatives to acquire that justice. Now Ugandans have started looking for alternatives, and we the leaders don't even need to come out and tell them that this is the alternative we need to take. They themselves are already doing that. Museveni himself was never told by someone that you go and you enter the bush, but he found himself in the bush together with other very angry and agitated Ugandans. Now he's pushing us into the same situation. We don't know where Ugandans will end. We don't know who will start. We don't know who will go where. We don't know who will seek for an alternative from where. What I am very sure of, that a time has to come, and we are edging closer to that time, where Ugandans are extremely frustrated that they are willing to do anything. And we are moving very closely to that alternative. And I know Ugandans, and I am encouraging you not to live in fear. Let us speak out. Let us also use other means possible to ensure that we get what we want in this country. And I'll say that without a fear or favor.
All right, thank you so much, Flavia. That alternative then, of course, led to loss of lives. There was so much disruption in this country, and it took many years to rebuild this country to where it is right now. We don't want to lose that. I simply would advocate that we grow forward. And how do we grow forward? I think it's coming down to systems and doing a general system cleanup or upgrade. For that matter, you yourself talked about police. Police has appeared on the corruption top list over and over again. When it comes to human rights violations, it's up there, and it's just one among the many institutions and systems that are meant to actually protect the rights and freedoms of Ugandans as a whole. So how do we then move forward to see that there's no alternative at any one given point to take Ugandans back to that ugly history?
Thank you, Regina. First of all, as I've said since we started this show, I will always say this: we have done a lot as NRM government. We are doing a lot as NRM government, but there are some gaps that we still need to close. And like any other, when you're building, you'll always patch. So when we identify those gaps, it doesn't matter which party you belong to. Let's air them out. Let's bring them on the table. Let's discuss. The good thing, by the way, one of the things that this government has brought, and possibly is even causing some of this, is sometimes a lot of freedom, speech and freedom. In most countries, you know that.
But it's the very same reason you came into power, so that people can have that
exactly
freedom.
And I'm happy that we are fulfilling it. That's very true. So people speak out, and once you speak out, there is a proverb, I don't know in other language, you say that a ghost which speaks will never kill you. In Nyankore, if I may put it, so we are lucky that we have a government which allows us to speak out, meaning we can always get medicine of what we are suffering from. So this of course, this outbreak, it's not good, especially when it reaches on where someone loses life because of intolerance. We really cast that out of Uganda. We pray that doesn't happen, but we call upon security institutions to curb that down, because they have the mandate to curb that down. Okay. So before you say, okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about, yes, as I wrap up on this show, I want us to re-emphasize two things. And if you watch since I started this show, I don't want to individualize this issue in any way. It's not a Museveni issue, it's not a Kyagulanyi issue, it is an issue of Ugandans. And we need to approach it as Ugandans. We need to find medicine as Ugandans. We need to know that we belong here, and we are not going to be any other citizen. Even if you bought citizenship in Canada, you're still a Canada of Ugandan origin, and you have roots in Uganda. So can we look at it as Ugandans? Can we put a stop on looking at it as a Museveni issue? Museveni is our president currently, who is constitutionally put in power. Let's respect him as such and find medicine on where there are gaps. Okay. We all need a peaceful society. We all need love for each other, and life is valuable. Life is not replaceable.
Flavia, as we close on this conversation, what's the alternative that we can consider right now so that we can arrest the
when we have leaders that respect the law, and leaders that work within the law and respect it fully, then you have citizens that can also respect the law. But when you have leaders totally dismantling the law, what do you expect citizens to do? So at the end of the day, Uganda is our home, and we all love Uganda, and no one is bigger than our country. But the same way it is our home is the same way we need to fight to reclaim it as our space. So Ugandans out there, you speak out. Yes, I would go into all the issues of the freedom of speech and expression. I will not. You all know the situation that we are living in. But I will encourage you not to lose hope. As the alternative, we have alternatives. Some we may be able to share with you, some we may not be able to share with you, but we never lack alternatives. And we know we will reclaim our space one day.
All right, thank you so much, ladies, for these deliberations on how best we can actually arrest this violation, this political intolerance that we are seeing cropping up left, right, and center. It was in the old, now the young people. Of course, one of the things that it has been alluded to is the lack of patriotism. Looking at it and dividing the conversation to individuals, political parties has brought us to this place. The other thing is the fact that 70% of the current population of Uganda is young people who do not seem to have something to do with their precious time, and that is called unemployment. And because of unemployment, they can easily be attracted to engage in mere things that then lead to insecurity, lead to violence, and so on and so forth. You know what has been happening over the course of the time. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, we have a constitution that must be abided to. We do have laws that we must abide to, and by we, it means all Ugandans, the leadership as well as the citizens. And when you do that, then in that way would have upheld the very same laws that are meant to protect us and allow us to live peacefully, amicably, and patriotically, but also enjoy and thrive in our very precious country, Uganda, which is your mandate, which is my mandate. So are you a law-abiding citizen? Are you a law-upholding citizen? Only you can answer that question. That brings us to the close of this conversation. Thank you so much for having been a part of our Kickstarter, as well as our morning at NTV conversations. It's been a privilege being in your company. Until we meet tomorrow again, 6:30 p.m. AM. Please answer that question by then.